Hello and welcome to the Miles Irvin Show. I'm your host, Miles, and last night was the first real big day of the NBA regular season. Of course, Tuesday night we had the first two games of the season, but last night 12 games happened, which means 24 teams tipped off their seasons for this 2023-24 campaign. And, there was a lot of fun basketball going on. It was hard for me to really keep track of it all. So, what I'm going to try to do here in this video, since there were so many games, I was really only able to dive in and really pay attention to 3 of the games, but I did keep going back and forth with all the games, so I do have certain things to talk about for each game and each team, because it's just, man, the NBA being back and all these teams playing, it's just so much fun, man. And you see all these new players with their new teams and their new jerseys. You see how these teams look different from previous years. New players in the league. We'll get to Victor Wembanyama and some other rookies that made their debuts as well. But just an incredible night of basketball to begin the season. Before I get started, leave a like on the video, subscribe for daily NBA content. The Miles Irvin Show, weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern. Just going to keep rolling out these videos and these recaps for you. And I'm sure once, news comes around, once we get deeper into the season, I'll have more things to go over than just the actual games themselves. But, like I said, I was really only able to focus on 3 games. So let's talk about those, and then I'll dive into those other ones a little bit after that. So let's dive into a game that just finished, and that was the Dallas Mavericks in the San Antonio Spurs. The Mavericks getting the road victory 126-119 in the highly anticipated NBA debut for Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama was in foul trouble, didn't get to play too much of this game down the stretch, but looked good in his minutes offensively. Shot the 3-ball really well, 3 for 5 from downtown. And the Spurs offense, man, it looked just like they did in the preseason. They were up. Their pace was fast. They were scoring at will. I mean, it is also the Dallas Mavericks, who, not the best defensive team. But the Spurs looked great offensively, led by Devin Vassell with his 23 points. Keldon Johnson looked very impressive. I was very impressed, actually, by Jeremy Sohan, who is their de facto point guard there. Point forward, point guard, whatever you want to call him. 13 points, 8 boards, 5 assists. He only shot 4 for 12 from the field, but he was very aggressive. That's something I really noticed watching him play. He was very assertive with his shot, like pump faking from beyond the 3-point line, shooting, driving inside. I thought he did a really nice job there. Zach Collins had a very good game as well for the Spurs, and then off the bench, Trey Jones did his thing, was the starting point guard for the Spurs last year, during their rebuild. He was very solid. Cedi Osman had his moments in his first game as a Spur. But ultimately, it was the Mavericks that came up with the victory because of Luka Magic coming up clutch. And this was really actually like a pretty well diverse team victory. And this is a game where the Mavericks didn't shoot the 3 the best. They shot 15 for 47 from 3, 32%. But they got contributions from a lot of different players on their roster. Of course, you got Luka and Kyrie both doing their things. Kyrie didn't have the best shooting game, in this one. Only shot 10 for 24, 1 for 8 from downtown. Tim Hardaway got off to a fast start, but was pretty quiet after that. He had 17 points in all. But, Grant Williams in his Mavericks debut, 17.6 rebounds, 4 threes. That's big for the Mavericks that he is knocking down threes, because he's one of their big versatile defenders that can also knock down the 3. So when he's knocking it down, that's super helpful for this Mavericks team. And then I want to give a shout out to the rookie, Derek Lively II. Came off the bench, and man, he looked legit. He had 16 points and 10 boards off the bench, and he looked like a legit vertical lob threat and, deterrent at the rim at points. for the Mavericks. And Luka did a great job finding Lively at the basket. Lively did a great job finishing inside real strong there. Had a nice and one finish as well. That was very, very impressive. But a very good game. Very entertaining game. It looked like the Spurs had this in the bag for most of it, but the Mavericks were able to get some stops down the stretch, actually, and they were able to pull out this victory. So, good things for both teams. And, of course, the Spurs, I don't have them doing anything too crazy this year, but they're just going to be always so much fun to watch. And I'm sure Wemby isn't going to be in foul trouble as much as he was in this game. He wasn't really too active in the Spurs offense. That will change as the season goes on. Moving on to the other game, the other marquee game that I had circled on my calendar or on my schedule of games today was the Celtics-Knicks game, and Boston pulled out the victory 108-104, led by Jason Tatum and his all-around performance, and Kristaps Porzingis, specifically in the first and fourth quarters, was absolutely phenomenal for this team, down the stretch. And, coming into this game, I was talking about, in yesterday's video previewing this game, I said that if the Knicks dominated the glass, I thought that they would have the edge. And when you look at the numbers, the Knicks had 10 more offensive rebounds than Boston, but they ended up losing the game. And, a big reason for that was because the Knicks missed 12 free throws in this game. They were 14 for 26 from the line. Randall was 1 for 5. Robinson was 0 for 2. Even Brunson and Grimes missed free throws. Like, every player that got to the free throw line missed for the Knicks. And that's, that's costly in close games like this. But, in a game where Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, your two star players, they really struggled shooting the ball wise, especially Randle to start the game. Even though I thought Randle had a very solid game, even though he struggled shooting the ball. RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly both stepped up in big ways for this Knicks team. And, I love, the hot and cold stretches for this game because, in the first quarter, the Celtics were hot and the Knicks were ice cold to begin the game. And it kept flip-flopping until we got into this nail-biting game in the final minutes. And Kristaps Porzingis hit some threes in the fourth quarter in his Celtics debut. He had 30 points, 8 boards, 5 3-pointers, and 4 blocked shots, which is very impressive. I believe that 30 points for Porzingis is the most by a Celtic player in his debut. So, great performances from Tatum and Porzingis offensively. Porzingis was definitely quiet in the second and third quarters. He had 15 in the first quarter. I'm not sure exactly how many he had in the fourth quarter, but I know he hit some big shots there. And then Tatum was just a steady guy all game. And that was huge because Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday both struggled offensively in this first game of the season. But their defense, man, looks so good. Their defense looks so good. I'm going to keep saying it. I think that if they have any problems this season, it's going to be because of their stagnant offense, because that definitely showed up, a few times in this game as well. But let me know in the comments what you think about the Celtics debut with the Porzingis and Holiday in there and their new team. What you thought about that road victory against the New York Knicks. The last game that I really had my eyes on was, of course, the Cavaliers and the Nets, mainly because, obviously I'm a Cavs fan, so I wanted to see what the new additions were looking like in this game. And honestly, I thought the Nets were going to win this game coming into it. I thought the Nets were just going to pull it out. But the Cavaliers got the close victory thanks to a clutch final quarter from Donovan Mitchell and an excellent debut for the sharpshooter Max Strus. They pull out the victory 114-113, surviving an absolute explosion from Cam Thomas off the bench. And, some main takeaways that I have for this game was the Cavs offense looked great. It looks a lot more modern. They were pushing the ball. They were firing away from downtown. I want to say they finished with 17 three-pointers in this game. Yeah, they shot 17 for 43 from downtown, which is excellent. That is beautiful to see as a Cavs fan. You've got Max Strus hitting 7 threes. He was just on fire the whole game. Mitchell got off to a pretty slow start, but, had a great fourth quarter, had that game winner, had that steal, had that dunk in there. Isaac Okoro in there starting. He looked great starting at the power forward. I thought Mobley and Garland were both very solid as well, even though their counting stats weren't that great. I thought that they both had really big impacts on this game. And, just a nice victory to begin the season on the road for Cleveland. Now, meanwhile, for Brooklyn, I think that this, all things considered, this is a pretty decent, outcome considering, this game was extremely close down the stretch, despite, Mikal Bridges, he didn't have the best game because he didn't shoot a ton of shots. He finished the game with 20 points, but he didn't get many shots offensively. Cam Johnson didn't have the best game. Claxton and Dinwiddie didn't really have great games. Pretty much Cam Thomas was your only offense for this team, and he was absolutely unstoppable. The Cavs did not know what to do with him until that final play there where, they had limited time to get a shot off, and Cam Thomas fired up that three, that prayer over Evan Mobley. But off the bench, Cam Thomas with 36 points, 13 for 21 from the field, 8 of 11 from the line. He just came in. As soon as I saw him come into the game, I was like, oh my gosh, well, here's the way the Nets are going to score, because the Nets were really struggling to score against the Cavalier defense. And, another thing was the Nets defense, which coming into this season, a lot of people are pretty high on, because you just look at all their players on their roster in that starting five, all pretty decent defenders, and the Cavs were getting anything they wanted in the first quarter, but their defense definitely picked up as the game went on. And I know a big player for this game, eyes were on Ben Simmons this game, and while you may see he only had 4 points, 2 of 6 shooting, he had 10 boards and 9 assists, and watching the game, he was very aggressive going to the basket. He just missed a couple shots inside, a couple hook shots inside that we've seen him hit before in his career. I think that, he played a very good first game. Like 10 boards, 9 assists is no joke. This guy is a good player, and in only 23 minutes as well. I mean, I think he had a very solid game. But Brooklyn, they're going to have to figure out where they can get more offense from besides just giving Cam Thomas the ball. I'm sure that they'd prefer their offense to be a little more team-oriented, especially in stretches where Cam Thomas isn't this explosive, because, this could be an anomaly. This could be something we see this season. Like, Cam Thomas is a legit 6th man of the year, most improved candidate, in my opinion, for this season, because he can just have these bursts. We saw last year, he had 3 40-point games in a row, which is just crazy. Then there were stretches where he couldn't get on the court because of his defense and inefficient shooting. So, it was a great game to start for a Cavs fan. And I think the Nets have good things to look forward to as well if they can shore some things up, because they were in this game the whole way through, despite them really only having one player be their offense and their defense struggling for much of the first quarter. Now, all these other games, I'll take a quick dive through them. I got a nice glimpse of the Houston Rockets Orlando Magic game, and man, the Magic, man, I just love this Magic team. They looked so impressive on both ends, specifically in the second half with how stifling their defense was, only allowing 88 points to this Houston Rockets team that does have good offensive players like a Jalen Green, Jabari Smith. Dylan Brooks was good in his debut. Şengün was very solid as well, had some nice moments offensively as well. But you look at this Orlando Magic team, what did they finish shooting from three? They only shot 9 for 34 from three. They came out of the gate on fire with Franz Wagner. But, I mean, Franz had 19, Cole Anthony had 20. Just a good all-around team performance and able to get a very dominant victory, mainly because of their defense, even though Paolo Banchero didn't have a big counting stats game. He only took 6 shots. Like, this is a very deep Orlando Magic team that's very versatile and can do a ton of different things. So I'm so excited to see what the Magic can do. I had them in the 11th spot in the Eastern Conference. That's where I have them projected. But I'm hoping they can make a play-in game because I just love this team. I love this team, man. Zipping ahead, let's talk about the Wizards-Pacers game. You talk about a game that did not have any defense. The Wizards and the Pacers, the final score was 143 to 120. I mean, there was no defense on either side, but the Pacers were just looking so explosive, man. 23 pointers for the Pacers, led by Tyrese Halliburton, and Bruce Brown with 6 threes in his Pacers debut. 24 points, and their bench came in and was very solid too. Andrew Nembhard had a double-double, 12 points, 10 assists in 21 minutes. Incredible stuff. 8 guys in double figures. Benedict Mathurin looked good. Miles Turner, Buddy Hield, sniper off the bench. Just a good victory for the Pacers, but of course it is the Wizards. It's only the Wizards. I do want to give a shout out to Danilo Gallinari. His first game back after missing all of last season with the ACL tear. 16 points in 17 minutes. He looked good out there in his first action in a Wizards uniform. Kuzma, I guess, looked good. I don't really know how to feel about the hair. But as far as the basketball goes, he had 25 points. Jordan Poole struggled a little bit. Denny Avdia, I noticed, was very, very aggressive taking to the basket. Had some good finishes, but then just some wild, shots. It's like, bro, what are you doing? That's not really your game. But I guess that is kind of what this team is for. Like, you're now in the tank, you're now rebuilding. This is for you to really determine, or you to find out really what kind of player you are. So it's okay to make those types of mistakes. Moving on quickly with the Hawks-Hornets game. The Hornets, the main thing I took away from this is they were able to get anything that they wanted in the paint, whether it was dunks from Mark Williams or PJ Washington. They were able to just get in the paint at will, and that is something that on the Runnin the Paint podcast, I'll have a link to that in the description below, that my guys were saying about the Hawks was that their defense could be a problem with guys just getting in the interior, and that definitely showed in this game against the Charlotte Hornets. And it was just PJ Washington who really led them. He had 25 points, 5 rebounds. Rozier was good. He had Brandon Miller making his NBA debut with 13 points. But the Hornets, I think I saw this is their 3rd straight year where they won their season opener. So this may not mean anything, and of course this is only just one game out of 82 for all these teams that I'm talking about. Still so many more to go, but just game 1 takeaways, it's always fun to make. A game that I didn't really catch at all was the Timberwolves-Raptors game, which is unfortunate because Anthony Edwards apparently went crazy in the first quarter. I wish I could have seen that live because I love watching Anthony Edwards play. But just looking from the box score, it looks like Dennis Schroeder had a good game, in his first game with the Raptors, leading that team to a low-scoring victory, 97-94. Then we go to the Pistons and the Heat, where Cade Cunningham and Isaiah Stewart, were very solid for the Pistons. Cade had 30, Stewart had 14 points, 14 rebounds, and Miami almost blew a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter. They nearly blew it all the way out, but Cade Cunningham missed a 3 at the buzzer that would have given the Pistons the win, which is crazy, considering the Heat were in control for a lot of that game. But I like what I saw from Bam Adebayo. I like what I saw from Thomas Bryant off the bench. Had some good energy. Duncan Robinson was good. Kevin Love had a good game, a double-double in that starting lineup. But Kyle Lowry did not score. That point guard position is going to be a problem for that team. That's going to be a problem. And, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, they weren't that efficient from the field, but they were able to get the final stop there on that last play. So they were able to pull out the 103-102 victory there. Then moving on to Memphis, where the Pelicans got the 111-104 victory in Memphis. And Zion Williamson, man, Zion looked great, with his finishes at the basket, especially at the end of that first half. My goodness gracious. That one-handed poster with the right hand, and then immediately the next play, an alley-oop catch from half court. Unbelievable. what this guy can do when he's healthy, man. And then, CJ McCollum, 24 points as well. Ingram looked good. Valanciunas was good. On Memphis' side of things, I thought that Desmond Bane had a really good game, but no one else really stepped up for them, and they are going to need guys to step up for them offensively if they're going to want to stay afloat, without Ja Morant for the first 25 games of the season. Jaren Jackson Jr., their all-star, had 5 points. That is unacceptable. That is absolutely terrible. Or, 8 points on 2 for 9 shooting. That is awful. Oh my gosh. Like, I cannot stand that. And he had 5 blocks, so he also had 5 fouls. He always gets in foul trouble. The Grizzlies are just gonna have to find other ways that they can score. It's gonna be scoring by committee. Xavier Tillman had a good game in the starting lineup, starting at the 5, but you need Jaren Jackson to come along the way with Desmond Bane. You need those two guys to both be locked in offensively for them to really have a chance there. But a great win to start the year for the Pelicans. Super important to get an interconference win like that in Memphis, because these are two teams that definitely have the potential to be fighting for Western Conference playoff positioning at the end of the season. Now, another Western Conference team, a young team, the OKC Thunder blew out the Bulls in Chicago, 124-104. This was an excellent team victory on the road, led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's 31 points and 10 assists. Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, were both good. Chet Holmgren was fine for the most part, besides the time where Andre Drummond just broke his ankles, which is unbelievable that actually happened. Unfortunately, that's going to be something that Chet has to live with for the rest of their career. You got your ankles broken by Andre Drummond in your first game. That's incredible. But great victory to start the year for the Thunder. In Utah, Sacramento's offense was clicking. They scored 130 points against the Utah Jazz, and out of all players, Harrison Barnes had 27 in the first half. That was unbelievable. They were just blowing out the Jazz there, and they were led by Harrison Barnes in the first half, and then Domantas Sabonis picked it up the rest of the game. Keegan Murray was good as well. Malik Monk had the first absolute monster posterization of the season against Chris Dunn. Just a great win to start for the Sacramento Kings. For Utah's side of things, Markkanen was all right. John Collins had a good debut for the Jazz. One thing I definitely will say about the Jazz is that court and those jerseys definitely look pretty. Man, it's way better than their current logos and stuff like that. And then the final game, which I also didn't really get to catch much of because I was watching the Mavericks-Spurs game, was the Clippers blowing out the Blazers 123-111. The score not indicative of how dominant that performance was. The Clippers were clicking on all cylinders. You had Kawhi Leonard, Zubats, and Paul George all scoring 20 points. Westbrook with 13 assists. He was pushing the ball. He looked great. Kawhi and PG were doing their thing, hitting jump shots. Bones Highland off the bench with 17 points. They were all very solid. And then on the Portland side of things, DeAndre Ayton with 4 points. And this is terrible because this guy is on my fantasy team, so I need him to step up because there's no excuse now. There is no excuse for you to only attempt 4 shots in a game when you are arguably the best player on this team heading into the season. Like, that was just terrible. That was just terrible. Hopefully he can bounce back. I'm sure he will, where we will not be seeing a 4-point stat line again, hopefully. But Malcolm Brogdon off the bench led the Blazers in scoring with 20 points. This is going to be a team where you really look to watch the growth of Scoot Henderson, and he had 11 points, 4 assists, 3 boards in his NBA debut. Shaedon Sharpe and Robert Williams were also really good off the bench. Blazers have a really, solid bench there with Brogdon, Sharpe, and Williams. I don't know, will that equate to, enough wins or anything like that? We will see. I mean, the Blazers were playing against a healthy Clippers team, and when this Clippers team is healthy, there's not many teams out there that can, really challenge them with all the star power they have and all the versatility they have. It's just really hard to keep up with them, especially for a Blazers team that was kind of just put together, crazily enough, like in the last month. Like the Damian Lillard and Drew Holiday trades, those kind of happened like about a month ago. So, you know, all great games to begin the season. Let me know in the comments what you think about all these games and these teams. We've got to do our daily segment. We've got to do it. Miles is player of the night. Yesterday, it was Nikola Jokic getting a triple-double on ring night. So who will it be tonight? Let's see. Let's open her up. And it is Luka Doncic with that triple-double against the Spurs, closing out that game in San Antonio. It looked like the Spurs might have, pulled ahead and won that game, but Doncic hit that step-back three late to really get the edge on that victory. Some other worthy candidates for this for me were definitely Donovan Mitchell, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, those are, and Tyrese Halliburton. Those are three guys that definitely could have been in the running for this award, but I had to go with Luka Doncic with that all-around game because he got it started early for the Mavericks as well. He was taking it into the thick of the Spurs defense in that first quarter, and he just did a great job attacking the basket. So let me know if you agree with that for the player of the night. Like I said, we've got to be keeping a tally of this throughout the season. Let me know who you think will win the most Miles Irvin Show player of the nights. We'll send them some sort of like plaque or something. I don't even know, but I hope you guys enjoyed this recap of last night's games. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating would be greatly appreciated. Subscribe for more daily NBA content, 9 a.m. Eastern on every weekday. I'm your host, Miles. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.